What's up everyone, it's Blue here at Blue Bears Games, and this week I will be unboxing and upgrading the final Warhammer 40k Commander Precon, Necron Dynasties. This is the only Precon that was monocolored instead of 3 colors, which is kinda weird to me, but I'm guessing it has something to do with the theme of the deck and what the lore is for Necrons in the Warhammer 40k tabletop game. I'll start off by first going over who they chose as the main general for the deck. Its name is Zarek the Silent King, and costs 4 mana for a 3/4 legendary artifact Necron with flying and one other ability called My Will Be Done, which states that whenever Zarek attacks, mill 3 cards, and you may put an artifact creature card or vehicle card from among the cards milled this way into your hand. At first glance, I see a theme centered around artifact creatures and self-mill, with some graveyard recursion thrown in because why not? That's one of Black's stronger abilities, so why not take advantage of it when you can? Going by Zarek's ability, I can only assume that all Necrons are artifact creatures, but I haven't looked at the list for this deck to confirm that yet. The only way to find out is if we just jump right in, rip this bad boy open, and see just exactly what's in the box together. So like I did with all of the other ones, I'm going to show you the box. This one is for the Necron Dynasties Commander for the Warhammer 40k. It is the mono black one. Here's the front. Again, different graphics. That's about all that's different for all of them. And then that's just what's on the back. Again, not as important as what's inside the box, so let's take a look at that and show you what's inside everything. Alright. So, here's the front of it. Has the face commander, all the little chits, the little tokens that you can do. And then the back, which has the deck, which we'll go over in a little bit. The little insert that doesn't really do anything. We'll throw that to the side. Here is the life counter that came with it. Here's the other side of it. Got the box. The box is important to me because the box is on this one. Honestly, if these weren't so expensive as far as getting the precons, I'd buy a bunch of these just for the boxes. Not lying. Alright, so there's the front of the box, the side, the back, and then the other side. And then, of course, you know, all the little things. I have no idea what to do with these yet. If they were the full-size ones, I would. I do not. So, alright. Why don't we open up the box, or I'm sorry, not the box, the deck, and we'll go over what's inside in the deck. Alright, split it in half like I always do. It's just a really thick package here. Alright, put that aside. Now, I've already gone over this commander, so I'm not going to go over it again, but this is what it looks like from the package, nice and shiny. The secondary commander is Emotech, the Stormlord. So this one is a 4-cast 3/3 with 2 abilities. First ability says whenever 1 or more artifact cards leave your graveyard, you create 2 2/2 Black Necron Warrior artifact creature tokens. Not bad. And then the second ability says at the beginning of combat on your turn, another target artifact creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains menace until end of turn. So that's the secondary commander that they have chosen. As far as the rest of the deck, let's go ahead and take a look. Flayed 1 is a 3-cast 4/1 with lifelink. It is a Necron and an artifact creature, so that is the theme of this deck. It has an ability that says when it enters the battlefield, you mill 3 cards. That's a sub-theme apparently. Next card is Hexmark Destroyer, 6-cast 6/6, obviously with the Hex. And then it has, can't be blocked except by 6 or more creatures. So that's the new menace, I guess. And then Unearth for 6. Plasmancer, 4-cast 3/3, flying. And then when it enters the battlefield, you search your library for a basic swamp card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle. Mana fixing, even though it's a 1-color deck. Psychomancer is a 2-cast 1/1 flyer. Whenever it or another non-token artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, or is put into exile from the battlefield, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life. I actually have some use for that for other decks. I'm going to mess this name up. Saltek Immortal, 3-cast 2/2 with Flash. Flash again means that it can be played anytime you can play an instant. And then it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature that died this turn. Skorpek Destroyer, a 4-cast 4/2 with Death Touch, and has whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, I'm gonna mess it up. Skorpek Destroyer gains first strike until end of turn. Triarch Praetorian is a 2-cast 2/1 flyer. Has when it enters the battlefield from a graveyard, you draw 2 cards and lose 2 life, and it unearths. Night Scythe, it's a 3D cast 3/1 vehicle, so it needs to be crewed with 2, and then it has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you create a 2/2 black Necron Warrior Artifact creature token. Defile, this is a reprint. Gives a creature -1/-1 for each swamp you control. This is a mono black deck, so that makes sense. Dread Return, also a reprint. It's a graveyard recursion card. That's another sub-theme. Cranial Plating, again, another reprint. It's an artifact equipment that gives a creature +1/+0 for each artifact you control, and it actually can be attached at instant speed. It doesn't have to be equipped. Hedron Archive, so some ramp. This is a reprint. Mask of Memory, helps draw you cards. Soul Ring, Barren Moor, Myriad Landscape, Reliquary Tower. It's a great inclusion in any deck that's for Commander. I know some people don't think so, but there are a lot of decks out there that do require you to have no maximum hand size. Darkness is a very old reprint. I believe this was originally in Legends. It's basically a black fog. Go for the Throat, so targeted removal, that's a reprint as well. Arcane Signet, Commander Sphere, Mind Stone, so we're in the ramp section here. Thought Vessel, another good inclusion. This is a great card. It's just like the Reliquary Tower. Unstable Obelisk, 3 to cast, adds a colorless, and then you can sacrifice it to destroy target permanent for a lot of mana. Wayfarer's Bauble, goes and gets a land for you. It's a reprint. Desert of the Glorified. Polluted Mire, so the cycling land. Vault of Whispers, an artifact land. That's a reprint as well. A new card, yay. Anriker, and I'm going to mess his name up. Anriker the Traveler. It's a 5 to cast 4/4 that says whenever it attacks, you may cast an artifact spell from your hand or graveyard by paying life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. Good little recursion. Biotransference, 4 to cast enchantment, says creatures you control are artifacts in addition to their other types, and the same is true for creature spells you control, and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. And then whenever you cast an artifact spell, you lose a life and create a 2/2 black Necron Warrior Artifact creature token. Chronomancer is a 2 to cast 1/1 flyer that has, you can pay 1 generic, tap it, and sacrifice another artifact to draw a card, and it also unearths. Cryptic is a 4 to cast 3/3, has an ability that you pay 1 black and 1 of any. You tap it, and you choose another artifact creature you control, and when that creature dies this turn, return it to the battlefield tapped under your control. Lots of graveyard recursion. I see where this is going. Illuminator Xeris, I guess that's how you say it. 3 to cast 3/3, that you can tap and sacrifice another creature to add an amount of black equal to the sacrificed creature's mana value. Locust Heavy Destroyer, it is a 4 to cast 3/2 flyer, and it has, when it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. I kind of like those creatures myself, and it also unearths. Lichguard, 3 to cast 2/3, says that you can pay 4 and sacrifice it itself to return all legendary creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Necron Deathmark is a 5 to cast 5/3 with Flash that says when it enters the battlefield, you destroy up to 1 target creature and target player mills 3 cards. Necron Overlord is a 4 to cast 2/5 that has X tap to tap X untapped artifacts you control, and target opponent loses X life. Out of the Tombs is a 3 to cast enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, put 2 Eon counters on Out of the Tombs, then mill cards equal to the number of Eon counters on it, and then if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, instead return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and if you can't, you lose the game. Royal Warden is a 5 to cast 3/2, says when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 tapped 2/2 black Necron Warrior Artifact creature tokens, and again, unearth. This one unearths for 4. Shard of Nightbringer is an 8 to cast 8/8 flyer. This one is not a Necron. This one is a, I guess it says Satan. And it says when Shard of the Nightbringer enters the battlefield, if you've cast it, target opponent loses half their life rounded up, and then you gain life equal to the life lost this way. Shard of the Void Dragon is 7 to cast for a 7/7 flyer, another Satan. It says when it attacks, each opponent sacrifices a non-land permanent, and then whenever an artifact is put into your graveyard from the battlefield or put into exile from the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Scorpic Lord, I guess that's how you say it, is a 3 to cast 3/2 with Menace. It says other artifact creatures you control get +1/+0 and Menace, and it unearths for 3. Technomancer is a 7 to cast 5/1. That's a bad power toughness to mana value. And when it enters the battlefield, you mill 3 cards, then return any number of artifact creature cards with total mana value of 6 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now I see why. Their name is Death, is a 6 to cast sorcery. Destroy all non-artifact creatures. That's absolutely bonkers in a deck that's literally based on all artifact creatures. Their number is Legion, is 4 black and X, for a sorcery that says create X tapped 2/2 black Necron warrior artifact creature tokens. Then you gain life equal to the number of artifacts you control. You exile their number is Legion, and it says you may cast their number is Legion from your graveyard. So if it gets milled, you can cast it. That's why that's like that. Tombblade is a 6 to cast 5/4 flyer. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player loses life equal to the number of creatures they control unless they sacrifice one, and it unearths for 8. Trazyn the Infinite, and I'm sure I messed up that name too. It's a 6 to cast 4/6 Death Toucher, and it says as long as the Trazyn is on the battlefield, it has all activated abilities of all artifact cards in your graveyard. Triarch Stalker, 5 to cast 4/5. Says at the beginning of combat on your turn, choose an opponent. Creatures attacking the last chosen player have Menace. Interesting way to word that. The War in Heaven is a 6 to cast enchantment saga. It has 3 chapters. The first chapter says you draw 3 cards and you lose 3 life. Second chapter says you mill 3 cards, and then the final chapter says choose up to 3 target creature cards with a total mana value of 8 or less in your graveyard, and then return each of them to the battlefield with a, what does that say, a Necrodermis counter on it, some kind of counter, and their artifacts in addition to their other types. Canoptic Scarab Swarm is a 4 to cast 1/1 flying artifact creature insect. And it has when it enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard, and for each artifact or land exiled this way, you create a 1/1 colorless insect artifact creature token with flying. That's actually pretty cool. I like that one. Alright, Canoptic Spider is a 5 to cast 4/4 flyer, and whenever another non-token artifact, creature, or vehicle enters the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. Canoptic Tomb Sentinel is a 4 to cast 4/3 with Vigilance. It's an insect, and it says when it enters the battlefield from a graveyard, you exile up to 1 other target non-land permanent, and it has Unearth for 7. Canoptic Wrath, it can't be blocked. It's a 3 to cast 2/1 that can't be blocked. And then when it deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 3 generic mana and sacrifice it. If you do, you search your library for up to 2 basic land cards with the same name as a land you already control and put them onto the battlefield tapped. Convergence of Dominion, 3 to cast for an artifact, says as long as you control your commander, activated abilities of cards in your graveyard cost 2 less to activate, and this effect can't reduce that cost below 1, which is normal, and then it has an ability that you pay 3 and tap it to mill 3 cards. Crypto Thrall, 4 to cast 3/3, and it says other artifact creatures you control have hexproof. That's pretty good, actually. Well, I like that a lot. Guess where that's going? I have a deck I'm making that's going in. Ghost Dark is a 4 to cast 3/3 vehicle that has flying. It crews for 2, and then when it becomes crewed, each artifact creature card in your graveyard gets Unearth 3 until end of turn. Necron Monolith is a 7 to cast 7/7 vehicle that has flying and indestructible. Crews for 4, and then when it attacks, you mill 3 cards, and for each creature card you milled this way, you create a 2/2 black Necron Warrior artifact creature token. Resurrection Orb, 2 to cast equipment. It's an artifact equipment. The equipped creature gets lifelink. Whenever the equipped creature dies, you return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step, and it equips for 4. That's the first half. Second half is going to probably have most of the lands in it and the tokens, so we're almost done. Scepter of Eternal Glory is a 4-cast legendary artifact. It taps to add a mana of any color, or it taps to add 3 mana of any one color, but you can only activate it if you control 3 or more lands with the same name. I really do like that card. That is a good card. I have plenty of monocolored decks that can use that. Tomb Fortress, it's a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. It taps to add a black, and you can pay 3 black and 2, tap it, and exile it to mill your 4 cards, then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And you can only activate that as a sorcery. Beacon of Unrest, this is a reprint. This is a graveyard recursion card. Living Death, one of the better reprints that we've had in almost any precon in a while. It is graveyard recursion, but on the best possible way. Mutilate, another reprint. Cage Stun, good for decks that are monocolor. You choose a color, and that's why monocolor decks are good for Cage Stun. And the creatures of the chosen color get +1/+1, and then your lands tap to add additional mana. So it's a good card. One of my favorite cards in Magic for Commander on monocolor decks is this card, Endless Atlas. 2 to cast, you pay 2, tap it, and draw a card, but you can only activate that if you control 3 or more lands with the same name, and in monocolor decks, you will have plenty of whatever color of the deck it is, that basic land. Gilded Lotus, more ramp. That's a reprint. Mystic Forge, great reprint. I use this a lot. Sculpting Steel, another reprint. And then, like I said, we're onto the basic lands, so it's probably going to be all swamps, and then I don't know if there's anything special that's going to pop out of here. Lots and lots of swamps. Nope, nothing special. And then we got the thick version of the Commander, so that you don't have to shuffle it in. And then let's see what the tokens look like. Necron Warriors. Most likely it's just that. And then on the other side, the insects that you could create. And I think that's probably going to be it. I don't think there's anything else that they would be. So that was what was inside the Warhammer 40k Necron Dynasties Commander Precon. I'm not really sure how I feel about the deck just yet. It has a lot of things I like, including artifact creatures, self-reanimation, and a tribal theme, but something just feels off about it. It feels like it should have blue in it somewhere to me for some reason. I will say that it is the most consistent deck of the bunch, but that has more to do with it being monocolored more than anything else. So that's all for today, but be sure to join me tomorrow where I'll be doing a small upgrade guide for the deck. Currently, as the deck stands right out of the box, it has a few themes that could be honed in on a little bit more, but I'm not sure which ones quite yet. You'll just have to watch tomorrow's video to find out what I've decided. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow, and have a great day.